Welcome back, party people, to the Barbecue Pit Live. Mikey D here, bringing you the UFC 271 main card preview. We'll go over the fights on the prelims as well, give you some fights to watch out for on there, and we're going to give you the main card picks here. Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker 2 for the middleweight title will be the main event. Main card kicks off Bobby Green versus Nasrat Hepkrast. Green comes into this fight a minus 140 favorite over Hepkrast. He's 28-12-1 as a pro. 10 knockouts, 8 submissions. His most recent fight was a TKO over Alan Quinta in November. He's 9-7-1 in the UFC. He's got a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. And 8 out of 10 of his losses are via decision. He's 4-2 since 2020, and those 2 losses are both decisions to Thiago Moraes and Rafael Fiziev, who are 2 fast rising stars in that division. Nasrat Hepkrast has a professional record of 13-4, so 17 pro fights to Bobby Green's 41. Hepkrast has 9 out of 13 as wins via knockout and no wins via submission. He is 5-3 in the UFC, with his only losses being Dan Hooker in his most recent fight, Drew Dober, and then Marcin Held. His biggest UFC wins include a decision over Rafa Garcia, a knockout over Joaquim Silva, and then a decision over Mark DeCasey. Trains with GSP and what is bro's name over at TriStar, Faraz Zahabi. So he's got a great team around him. He's a great kickboxer. I think Bobby Green is a really good boxer and a really good kickboxer, but he showed it in his most recent fight against Alan Quinta. He's got the ability to take you down, man. Alan Quinta's a good wrestler. And Bobby Green definitely has the ability to take you down, and when he does, he's got the ability to do a lot of damage while he's down there. So Bobby Green, I got via decision or TKO, probably going to be ground and pound, something like that. Kyla Phillips versus Marcelo Rojo. Phillips coming in at a minus 400 favorite. He is 9-2 as a pro. Both his losses are by decision, split decision to Victor Henry prior to getting into the UFC. And then his most recent fight was a decision loss to Julian Paiva. He is 3-1 in the UFC. His 3 wins include Gabriel Silva, Cameron Else, and Song Yadong. 5 out of 9 of his wins are via knockout, and he only has 1 submission win on his record. He has 2 fight of the night bonuses, 1 performance of the night bonus in the UFC. So it's 3 bonuses in his 4 UFC fights. His lone fight did not get a bonus was Song Yadong, which, sometimes Song Yadong can definitely throw a fight of the night out there. But other than that, he's mostly point fighting. So very understandable why he couldn't get a performance of the night bonus there. Marcelo Rojo is 16-7. He lost his UFC debut by knockout to Charles Jourdain. 14 of his 16 wins are finishes, 8 knockouts, 6 submissions. 4 out of 7 of his losses are via submission, and he's only been knocked out once in his professional career. He's been fighting professionally since 2011, so 11 years, whereas Phillips has only been fighting professionally since 2016, so 6 years. That you could kind of tell with the 11 pro fights versus the 23 pro fights of Marcelo Rojo. He's the older guy, Rojo. He's going to come into the fight. Kyla Phillips is going to come in hungry, young guy, climbing his way in the UFC. Just lost his most recent fight to Julian Paiva. Big step up in competition there. Huge step down to go to Marcelo Rojo. I got Kyla Phillips pretty easily. We're going to go either knockout or decision. I think Marcelo Rojo is a really tough guy, so I'm leaning more towards a decision there for him. Jared Cannonier versus Derek Brunson is going to be a good fight in the middleweight division. Derek Brunson coming in at a plus 145 underdog. And let me tell you why. Cannonier has a pro record of 14-5 with 9 knockout wins. He's 4-1 since moving to middleweight, with his only loss being a decision loss to Robert Whittaker. He's got middleweight wins over David Branch, Anderson Silva, Jack Hermanson, and then most recently Kevin Gastelum. He has never been submitted, but has been knocked out in 2 out of 5 of his losses. Sean Jordan at heavyweight and Dominic Reyes at light heavyweight were the 2 guys that were able to knock him out. He's purple belt in jiu-jitsu, really, really, really slick ground game that it's kind of underestimated because he's got so much power at the middleweight division. And he's a former AFC Alaskan Fighting Championship heavyweight champion. Derek Brunson's a black belt in jiu-jitsu under Renzo Gracie, and a former Division II two-time national champion wrestler. So he should come in definitely better grappling, but Jared Cannonier has such a stiff grappling base that I think he'll be able to stuff takedowns and keep the fight standing. Brunson is 23-7 as a pro, 12 wins by knockout, 5 out of 7 of his losses via knockout, and he has never been submitted in his career. He's 14-5 in the UFC. He's currently on a 5-fight winning streak. In those 5 fights, he has wins over Edmund Shabazian, Kevin Holland, and Darren Till in his 3 most recent. His other UFC wins include Lyoto Machida, Uriah Hall, Sam Alvey, and Chris Lieben way back in the day. I think, needless to say, this is probably going to be a striking match. Cannonier definitely takes that. If Derek Brunson could somehow take him to the ground and get him really, really, really tired, I could see Derek Brunson win a decision. But my pick here, Jared Cannonier via knockout, one of the first couple rounds, same kind of way Israel Adesanya did it. He's going to stuff the takedown, set up his shots, and land something big. Derek Lewis versus Tai Tuwabasa. We've been waiting for this one for a while now. Derek Brunson made very clear before that he does not want to fight in main events anytime soon. They respect his wishes. They give him a co-main slot. He is 26-8-1 as a professional, 7-6 in the UFC. He was 5-1 in his last 6 fights, and that only loss was a TKO loss to Cyril Gane. He's got UFC wins over Chris Daukaus, most recent fight, Curtis Blades, Blagny Ivanov, Alexander Volkov, Francis Ngannou, Roy Nelson, and Gabriel Gonzaga. So you see Roy Nelson, very, very good jiu-jitsu player there. Chris Daukaus, really good grappling. Curtis Blades, great wrestling. And then you got great boxer. Blagny Ivanov, real good boxer. Alexander Volkov, great kickboxer. But also worth to say, Alexander Volkov was fucking Derek Lewis up until the last second of the fight. Derek Lewis landed a knockout blow in the last second of a 5-round fight. Gabriel Gonzaga, world-class kickboxer. Francis Ngannou, heavyweight champion. So Derek Lewis has got a killer's row of guys that he's beat inside the UFC octagon. 21 wins via knockout. 5 out of 8 of his losses are also via knockout. He's got the most knockout in UFC history with 13. He's tied for the most finishes in UFC heavyweight history with 13, and he's tied with Frank Mir. Tai Tuwabasa, 13-3. He has 12 wins by knockout and has been finished in 2 out of 3 of his losses. He got knocked out by Junior Dos Santos, lost decision to Blagny Ivanov, and then got submitted by Sergey Spivak. He's 7-3 in the UFC. He's on a 4-fight winning streak right now that includes a knockout win over Stefan Struve, Henry Hunsaker, Greg Hardy, and Augustus Sakai. He knocked out all those guys. He was 5-2 as a professional boxer with 3 knockout wins and 14-2 as a professional kickboxer. I think probably more technically sound is Tai Tuwabasa as far as striking. But if these guys get into any kind of a brawl, which, Tai Tuwabasa is known to do, he's a really wild type of striker. And he's one of those guys where, he's like a Nate Diaz or a Sean Strickland or a Derek Lewis, or, where he's going to go in there, he's going to fight. It doesn't matter, technique, grappling, all that shit's out the door. He's going for the knockout punch, every single punch he throws. So I think it's going to be a very exciting fight. But I also think that fighting style against Derek Lewis is not the way to go. Derek Lewis is going to eat Tai Tuwabasa for lunch. And we're going to see a knockout by Derek Lewis easily, I think. Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker 2. Also a pretty easy one for me to preview. Both guys have done really, really well since their last fight. Adesanya is 3-1 since his win. That one loss being a decision loss to Han Blachowicz for the light heavyweight title. He's 21-1 as a professional, 15 out of his 21 wins via knockout, the rest by decision. He's got wins as a champion, which means after he beat Robert Whittaker over Yoel Romero, Paulo Costa, and Marvin Vittori. Excuse me. He's 75-5 as a professional kickboxer, 5-1 as a professional boxer, with 4 out of 5 of those wins via decision. He's got a 4-inch height advantage and a 7-inch reach advantage over Robert Whittaker, who comes into this fight 23-5, 3-0 since his loss against Adesanya. All 3 wins are decision over Darren Till, Jared Cannonier, and Kevin Gastelum. He's 14-3 in the UFC. His only other 2 losses in the UFC were to Stephen Thompson, and Court McGee, both at welterweight. He's got 9 wins by knockout, 5 wins by submission. Robert Whittaker's got a very, very unique style. He's got the cardio to go all 5 rounds. He's got the striking. He's got grappling. He's a very, very well-rounded fighter. I think when you get a guy like that, you gotta that guy against the guy like Adesanya has got to implement something early in the fight and just dog him out with it. Like, he's got to take him down if he can land a takedown, and he's got to hold him down and beat him up for an entire round. He's got to take his confidence away from him early, even if it's striking. If he hurts him early and he just finds a way, like Stipe found the way to throw those check hooks to the body against Daniel Cormier somewhere in the 3rd, 4th round, whatever he did it, where it really started hurting him. As soon as he started doing it, he realized that's working, and he kept setting it up, did it like 3 or 4 times back to back. If he can get something like that going, where he could trick Adesanya in the striking, he could get that as well. But other than that, man, I mean, a 4-inch height advantage and a 7-inch reach advantage, extremely hard against a guy that is really, really good at takedown defense. He's not easily taken down. So having that kind of a size disadvantage against a guy like that, it's not good, man. And I love Robert Whittaker, and I wish Robert Whittaker be the champion. He's one of the best middleweight champions, I think, in a very long time. I would have to put him top 5, top 10 of all time. I don't even know how many fucking champions there was, but either way, he's one of my favorite, at least, middleweight champions there has ever been. But, Adesanya is just a bad matchup for him. It really is a really, really bad matchup for him. These kind of size differentials is where you see, oh, that's why you're fighting at welterweight. Because, Robert Whittaker body frame size-wise doesn't look like it looks like, oh, man, you should have been at middleweight. Like, why were you ever fighting at welterweight, sucking your body down like that? But then when you see these giving up a 7-inch reach advantage over some of these guys, Adesanya, you're like, oh, that's why you were fighting guys like Court McGee, fucking, short arm, just smaller guys, the guys your size. But he did really, really well in middleweight until he came up against Israel Adesanya, and I think we're going to see 2-0 Israel Adesanya here. I'm going to go decision, man. I think Robert Whittaker's a really, really tough guy, and I don't think he's going to get caught like he did in the last fight, but I still see him get outpointed. It's probably going to be a close fight. It's going to be one of those fights that comes down to the 5th round, but I'm going to go Israel Adesanya. Prelims, Andrei Arlovski versus Jared Vandeira. Roxanne Modafferi is taking on Casey O'Neill. Alex Perez going against Matt Schnell. William Knight against Maxim Gresham. Leo Mana Martinez versus Ronnie Lawrence. Alexander Hernandez will be fighting Renato Moicano. Carlos Olberg versus Fabio Charant. AJ Dobson versus Jacob Malkoun. Douglas Silva de Andrade will be fighting Sergey Morozov. And Jeremiah Wells will be taking on Mike Mathena. I think if we're looking at fights to watch on the prelims, I'm going to go William Knight, Maxim Gresham. Just, contrast of styles there. Possibly Alex Perez match now. I think that's a pretty good matchup, but I'm leaning more towards Alex Perez. And then Roxanne Modafferi versus Casey O'Neill is great because Casey O'Neill is an up-and-coming rising star. Roxanne Modafferi, veteran of the sport, very, very, very durable. And Casey O'Neill's a finisher, man. So it's going to be really exciting to see what happens there. Like I say, at the end of every show, you would think I would have this pulled up already, but I do not. But let's check out what is after this weekend. Scheduled events. February 12th, Rafael dos Anjos versus Rafael Fiziev. Damn, that's a badass main event. Johnny Walker versus Jamal Hill. Kyle Dog is supposed to be fighting Julian Marquez. He fell out of that fight. I think they got him against Jamie Pickett now. Joe Quinn Buckley, Abdul Razak Al Hassan is a great fight. Let's see what else we got on here. Gabriel Benitez versus David Onama. Mark Strider versus Chaz Skelly, which should be his fucking banger. Jessica Rose Clark versus Stephanie Egger. Holy shit. Khalid Taha versus Mario Batista. So they got a pretty good fight night card coming up. Are they doing it somewhere, or is it going to be Vegas? Vegas. I think, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, they're going Toyota Center this Saturday night. Houston, Texas. Derek Lewis is back in Houston, Texas. Did not want a main event. He got his wish as co-main event. Go Derek Lewis. He is okay. Signing out. Stay barbecued, fuckers. See you next week.